Hi, you're welcome to my YouTube channel, and this video I'm going to be explaining SQL aggregation and grouping, just to add it all there. Okay, this is a series where I've been talking about SQL, talking about how you download SQL, how to get started with SQL, what is SQL and what are databases. And we've moved on from there and we've been using a hypothetical company called TechCore that has a lot of data needs. And some of the data needs involve different SQL operations to be performed. And in this video, I'm going to be speaking about how do you do aggregation and grouping on a much higher scale, especially when it involves a business problem that we've been using as a guide to see how you can attack this, approach this in a business context. So let's get started. TechCore has gathered substantial data on employee projects and wants to derive meaningful insights. They need to analyze project statistics such as total number of projects, the average project size, and identify the projects with the highest and lowest participation. In previous videos, I've created two tables called the employee table and the project table. And this table, they've been acting like a guide to sort of work on these several operations in SQL. In this, I have 5 steps, and these 5 steps are well explained on this general step I have here, and this is the pattern I've been using to give the business problem and give you a step with which we can use to approach that problem. So first, we're going to count the total number of projects. We're going to write a query to do that from the project table. Then we are going to calculate the average project size. To do that, we're going to determine the average number of employees assigned to each project. Identify projects with the highest participation. We're going to find the projects with the maximum number of participating employees. Then we identify projects with the lowest participation, the same thing, using the minimum from the project table. We're going to group employees by department and count. And finally, we're going to calculate the total age by department. We're going to determine the total age of the employees in each department, providing insight into distribution of experience across departments. So let's get started with the first. Count the total number of projects. To do that, it's quite very easy because we have our employee table, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to say select, and I'll say from projects. Let's just get that down. And to do this, all I'm going to do is to say select count. I'm doing count all the rows that are available on my project table. Count all the rows available on my project table. And I'm going to give it an alias to say total projects from my projects table. And I'm going to run this. It gives me the total as 9, which is pretty much about it, because if you want to confirm, you can say select all from projects. I select all from projects. I'm going to get 9 rows. Other ways to do it, remember when we're creating our project table, the project ID is a unique column. It means that you cannot have any repetition on that column. With that being confirmed, another way to do this, we can say select count distinct, which is still the same thing if I put distinct or not, because the project ID column is a unique column. So I'm going to say project ID from project. So I'm going to call it projects. Give it that alias as this. So I can run this and I'm going to get the same thing as 9. Let's go back to this and just run that. Good. So we have 9. The second part says that we should calculate the average project size. Average project size. How do we go about that? We're going to say select, and now we're going to run a join operation. Select from projects as PRJ, inner join employees as EMP on PRJ dot project ID is equal to EMP dot employee ID. Sorry, this is project manager ID. Project manager ID. Good. So want to see the average project size. So for the average project size, we're going to say select average we're going to say select project ID. Then we'll say count employee ID as employee count. So what we're saying is let me just have this here. Remember what I said previously, just to be sure that we are also always using the employee DB. All right, so we're on number 2. So we say select the project ID, count employee ID as employee count from project as PRJ, inner join employees as EMP on this is equal to this. So let me run this. So if I want to get the average employee size, I could say select. I could say select average of what? Of my employee count as average project size. From now, this is an introduction to subqueries, and I don't want you to get confused about it. Subqueries is essentially running a query on a query. And you assume that this first query is a table on its own, which it is essentially because it is this table here. So from this table, we are going to be running a query on this table. So we're saying select the average employee count, which is this, as average project size from the table. And to do the subquery, I'm going to be opening this bracket, close it here, and I'm going to call this pseudo table. The reason I call it a pseudo table is actually a query that we can get a table out of it. I'm going to call it project size. And I'm going to run this, select that, and the average is 1, which is very, very obvious from that. So I'm going to select all of this for the third step, because we're looking for the project with the highest number of participation. To get a project with the highest number of participation, I'm going to say project ID, the count, and also inner join to the employees. So let me run this. If I run this, I'm going to get everything as 1, because each project has 1 employee assigned to it. But if I want to have a feel on how this highest participation would work, let's say identify employees. Let me rephrase this question to say identify employees with the highest number of projects. Highest number of projects. So you kind of have a feel, because this is just 1 employee assigned to 1 project. Is going to be quite hard for you to have a feel on how this works. So I'm going to call this employee ID. Let me copy this and we'll put here employee ID. Copy this to say count the number of, so this is what we are doing. Employee ID, the employee, do a distinct count on the project ID. All of the project that he's working on, I'll just remove this distinct and say give me all of the projects he's working on as project count. So this is going to be project count. From project, it doesn't matter because we are doing an inner join. If we're doing a left join, it makes sense to use the employee table here first before using the project table. But because we're doing an inner join, it doesn't matter who you're using first. From project as PRJ, inner join to this, and we are now going to group by the employee ID. Group by employee ID. Let's run this and see what we get. They are now grouped by employee ID. We are able to know employee 1, how many projects are you working on? Employee 2, how many projects are you working on? Employee 3. And this is in ascending order. And because it's in ascending order, we're going to get the highest number of projects, which is the first one. To ensure that we instill that, we could just add order by project count, project ID, order by count of this project ID, and we'll say ascending. So we could put it in ascending order, or we could say descending because we want to get the highest. So we're going to say order by. So what we're saying is order this by this count because we want to get the highest. Just click on that. Sorry, descending, there should be a C. And that is fine. We get this to know that employee ID 1 has the highest, which is 5. The next we can do is to identify the employee. Don't forget, we're just changing this. Employee with the lowest number of projects. All right, so I'm going to copy this. It's just the same thing, really. Paste it here. And what can I do is to say ascending. So now we're going to group employees by department and count. To do that, we're going to come back to this place. Let me just copy this. We're going to group employees. So we have employee ID by department and count. So to do that, we're going to say select department. So we're going to count all. I will say as employee count. Employee count. This is going to come from the employees table. I'm just going to delete this and I'm going to have my group by department. So let's run this and see. The last bit of this is going to be calculate the total age by department. Almost the same thing. I'm going to say select department, sum of age as total age from employees. We're going to say group by department. When we run this, we're going to get a sum of age by department. So this is how you can perform some of these queries, and this is basically it. And you are flexible to try out more things. Try out other aggregations. You can do an average, you can do a sum, you can do a count, you can do a max, you can do a mean. A lot of aggregations that you can try there. But this is just to give an idea of some of the ways you can approach a business problem using SQL. See my other videos. Thank you.